Well, hello again, everybody. We want to say thank you, as always, for taking time to watch our videos and read our stuff. We are so grateful for that. I was listening to another podcast just yesterday, Selena, and truly, as those people said, without you guys, there's no reason for this to be there. So this is about everything that's happening in your lives and in your family, and without you, this really wouldn't be anything but us just sitting here talking. That proverbial leadership thing about if you think you're leading and turn around and nobody is following you, you're actually just taking a walk. And so we thank a lonely walk. So thank you very much, as always, for watching and just engaging, especially. We've enjoyed the comments since the last video and just the conversations in our local community here all around what God is saying. So again, just never want to take it for granted and say thanks. And so with that too, we want to just jump in and talk about something that we've talked about, I guess, for quite a number of years, and we want to give a big shout out to Peter Burrell, because he's really the man that God used to teach us this.
Yes.
And so this is not new to us. This is not, as you know, most things aren't new to you. They're just new in the moment to you. But it's not that we've all discovered some secret. Sometimes people approach us and say, wow, you've discovered some thing that's unknown. And
We don't take credit for that.
No, God sent other people into our life, like hopefully He's sending us into your life.
Right.
And we're just passing on thoughts and seeds. It's...
Sorry, and on that, I've always asked God for Him to provide the right resources.
That's very good.
And
That's
the right people. In every area of life, we all need help. We all need people to come, but we also need resources. And when resources come, I receive them from the Lord. And so there's a different weight of authority to those things. Obviously, you eat the hay and spit out the sticks and all that awesome stuff. But you don't just go, we can't be flippant with the resources when they come, because they're an answer to our prayers.
No, absolutely. And ask for them and look for them.
Yeah,
there's
them.
Okay, we're going to have to talk about Uncle Pete's stuff in the next video, because we're already kind of going through. But let's just jump in right here with this. There's a verse in the book of Hebrews, and I don't remember the address to the verse, but it says this. It says that if you see people who through faith and patience have obtained the promises of God, it says mark those people. And what that word in the Greek language, mark, literally means, it says grab a pen, grab a notebook, and go sit down and have a chat and take notes.
Yes.
It says mark those people. It doesn't just say watch them from afar,
right,
or see them. It says engage with them, converse with them, dialogue with them, ask questions, take notes, because whatever it is that God led them to do, it'll be the same framework that He's going to lead us to do.
Right.
Now, again, this kind of means we have to jump in here, because we're not saying that everybody's got to do the same thing and be uniform or
we're
carbon
not
copies,
about uniformity here.
Or copycat type stuff.
Right.
Although it bears, sometimes we can, a little bit of that when you get started, because Paul actually said, the Apostle Paul, he used the word pattern a lot in his writings, especially to Timothy and Titus. He said, mark me as a pattern.
Right.
He said, imitate me as I imitate Christ, to the Corinthians. And literally that language he's using does mean imitation. It means like we would, like you
copycat.
well, more like this, and maybe another analogy is like, saying the girls, kind of dabble at sewing some and stuff, but you get a pattern.
Yes.
And when you go to make a dress, you lay a pattern down on the fabric and you cut out the pattern.
Right.
And that's the word Paul used. He said, you can take my life as a pattern when you don't know what to do.
Right.
And you can lay it down. Now, I believe what he means by that is not just solely maybe, the proverbial fake it till you make it, or God told so-and-so to do this, so if I do it, it'll work out the same way. We're not saying that.
It's a good starting point.
It is, but it's the principle.
Yeah.
It's patterning our life after the way of thought.
Right.
It's patterning our life after the principles these people are endeavoring to live by. Again, obviously from Scripture. Yes. As they are following Jesus, as these people we are seeing that through faith and patience, they have attained the promises. I'm going to go mark them. What was the pattern of thought that they had?
Yeah.
What were the principles that they used as kind of like guardrails or guidelines to kind of guide them in the direction that they went to, that led them to obtaining the promises of God?
And a lot of times those things don't come out organically in conversation.
No.
You know, so that's why you do need to pursue them and sit down and have dinner with them or a coffee and ask questions.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, how did you guys do that? How did you get to this point? And that's when you start really digging into the whys behind the whats, right? Why did you do that? Now I understand.
Well, because the reason why I say it is because you hear us say all the time, especially now lately, you know, we don't want these videos or any of our events or the things that we do now to be just how-tos. Right, this is how you do this. Now, we're not opposed to how-tos.
Right.
They're useful, but again, we jokingly said there used to be a book some years ago that said that if how-tos were enough, we'd all be skinny, rich, and happy.
Right.
Right. But so obviously how-tos aren't enough. Right? It's why. It's how are we thinking? What's the thought that led to the action that got us there? And again, for time, we'll end on this thought. You know, it's I remember listening again to Andy Andrews, who's one of my favorite guys to kind of follow after. And he talked about, you know, we're always telling people, make better decisions, make better decisions. You got to go make that. So-and-so's got to.
That wasn't a good choice.
That wasn't a good choice. So-and-so's got to make better decisions. And he says, you know, while it's true, maybe that person needs to make a better decision. Really, what we got to start with is not the decision making, it's their thinking.
Right.
Remember, Scripture teaches us that as we think in our heart, so are we. So when we talk about marking people and following after the example of faith and patience in somebody's life, it may have an aspect of, okay, yeah, this is what we did. You can do that too, because God is no respecter of persons, and there is some, I don't know, some validity, I guess, to that way of thought. But really, it's, man, what were you thinking as you walk this out, right? What, in a good way, not what were you thinking, you know, but in a good way. Wow, what was the process? What was the thought journey that God led you on? What verses inspired you to start to meditate along this line? What was it? What like something said, what book did you read, or sermon did you listen to, or conference did you go to? And that started a process of you thinking and meditating along these things to, again, I like to say it like this, that to cause you to think God's thoughts about this thing after Him. Right? And I want to begin to get into that stream of thought.
Exactly.
And guard my mind. And again, as Paul said, think on these things. Meditate on these things, he told Timothy, so that your progress could be seen by all. Right? So what was that? What were those thoughts that those people did?
I just want to warn you, the moment you start thinking new thoughts, you're going to have to wrestle with them.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
And that's good.
Yeah.
It's sometimes exhausting, but it's really good to really just wrestle through, okay, this is really challenging the way I used to think.
Absolutely.
This is really, okay, well, now it's challenging everything I do, the atmosphere I'm in, all those things, but that's actually healthy, because that means we're moving forward.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you in that.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to stop for now for the time. We're trying to keep these videos
short and sweet.
To short and sweet as possible. You know, that's a challenge for me, not so hard for her. But we, again, always grateful for you watching, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.